And good afternoon, everybody. Steve Schmidt with the warning here and joined by my friend Dean Blundell. Dean, how are
Buddy,
you?
great. Good to see you. As always, nice to see you. You look a little more caramel than me. Really looking forward to you coming back from the deep south to join me in the great white north because baseball season is approaching.
Baseball
And
is here.
it's coming.
Here. It's a week
Yeah.
away. Um, Extraordinary defeat by the U.S. team at the World Baseball Classic by Venezuela. By Venezuela. Baseball's a poetic sport.
Isn't it? Isn't it? Like you could not have scripted that any better. Obviously, the hubris from the United States winning 2 golds in hockey in the Olympics, and they have been. And listen, I love a good shit talk. Like you know me, I'm a big fan. You and I have been to several baseball games where things have come out of our mouths at home plate umpires and first base umpires, and so we love a good little sports shit talk. So I really enjoyed the tete-a-tete that I had with American hockey fans over the past several weeks. Knowing what went on with between what went on between the United States of America and Venezuela a couple of months ago, knowing the diminutive attitude that that country has towards that country of Venezuela, beautiful people minimized, and to watch Venezuela beat the United States 3-2, they don't need extras, Steve. They didn't need extra innings. And to see the joy in those players, the relief in those players and why they won it, and the poetic justice, as you point out, of the United States losing again in the gold medal game of their pastime. And I can separate MAG America from better America. I get it. But my God, I love that.
Italy almost took them. I mean, that was when you knew that it was going down. It was going down.
It's gonna be a tough go.
Wasn't gonna work out.
But real quick before just a quick aside, never to miss an opportunity. Our guy Trump, America's fascist dictator in chief. Immediately after that, it's like that's my 51st state.
That's my 51st state. Venezuela. Venezuela.
Anyway.
How did Venezuela become a state, Dad?
They won the World Series of baseball, son.
You had some news that I had not heard right as we were getting on about Donald Trump and a Secret Service agent. What's going on? And the other thing we have to talk about, that I have said over the last couple days is that since you wrote about it, I said I don't know any of the details, though I'm going to talk to Dean Blundell about it. But I was having this conversation at dinner last night with former U.S. ambassador to Argentina. And we were talking about the USS Gerald Ford and the magnitude of that story. If it is the case that you had a U.S. sailor deliberately start a fire that burned for 30 hours aboard a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier in a war zone in the middle of combat operations that's been deployed for 11 months. That may be the biggest military story of my lifetime. That's a huge deal. And so I want to talk about that too. But what's the deal with the Secret Service agent?
You're right. These are 2 huge stories. And you know what? I do this Sunday roundup where I critique, the main 5 Sunday news shows on mainstream media with my friends at the Save America movement to prove a point. But that point is being proven by these 2 stories not getting any traction, no light of day, being disincentivized on every major social media channel. Let's go to the first one, which you pointed out. I posted it at deanblundell.substack.com. Yesterday, I was sent a video of the Oval Office. In the Oval Office video that I saw, it was a Secret Service agent who was walking out, a female Secret Service agent who was walking out in front of the president of the United States, Donald Trump, who is an adjudicated rapist, we can verify that he has been credibly accused of sexual predation, violent in a lot of cases, 31 different times. We know he's, like I said, an adjudicated rapist. We know he's protecting pedophile upon pedophile, which probably most likely almost is going to be him as well. And in this video, and it's worth, context is everything. This isn't a court. These are facts. These are what we know about the individual. In this video, Steve, the Secret Service agent is walking out. She's wearing a nice pantsuit, as a Secret Service agent does. And Donald Trump slowly puts his hand down on her back, taps her back once or twice, and then slowly and deliberately puts his hand on her bum and then starts tapping and feeling her bum. Now, this video, again, you can go and get it at deanblundell.substack.com. This video has been suppressed and now has been sort of pushed off of Twitter. I use Twitter as a repository for things that will come out hot. The videos that people don't see, but we verify everything. This is a verified video from the Oval Office of Donald Trump patting what appears to be a female Secret Service agent on the backside for a prolonged period of time, Steve. Like a prolonged period of time, like one that, like if you saw someone, and you and I are both very similar this way, if you saw someone do that to someone in public, or if you're at an airport, you saw someone do that to, an airport attendant, you'd run and tackle the guy, or you'd grab him and say, "What are you fucking doing, dude? Why are you doing this?" And it wasn't collegial, like it wasn't grabbing by the what. It wasn't like, you pat someone on the butt, like good job for coming off the field, like you see in football and baseball. This was sexual assault. This was the sitting president of the United States who's being investigated for sexual predation, the likes of which we cannot even describe. It as so horrific over a 50-year period with his friends Epstein and everybody else. This is the same guy who is now an adjudicated rapist, which means a judge found him guilty of rape in the E. Jean Carroll case. This is a guy with 31 different sexual assaults, some very violent that he has either settled or somehow figured out to put away. Literally sexually assaulting what appears to be someone who is charged with protecting his life in the Oval Office. And if you go to my Substack feed, you can watch it, judge for yourself. Like, listen, dude, I had a 97-year-old grandfather who used to walk around the nursing home grabbing his stuff, asking if anybody wanted cookies. And I'm like, at one point, I said to my mom, I'm like, he's a clever old fella, isn't he? But he literally we found out later, he literally thought he had cookies in his diaper. Like he was like, no, there's cookies here. He's like rummaging around. And I'm like, I got to leave, Mom. This is no good. So there's only one of two answers here. Donald Trump can't help himself. It is so deeply ingrained, that sexual predation, so deeply ingrained in him, number one. Number two, or he's so lost that he's now sexually assaulting people in the Oval Office because he's that out of it.
It's like Caligula's den is what the place looks like. I was just sitting there with the Japanese prime minister. So that particular shot, I guess, with the fireplace in the background and all the gold crusted shit on it, is that I just find it jarring every time to sit there, and I mean, it's like Caligula's playden. I don't, what can you fucking say about it? I just like, the only thing is that I know it's all going to be scraped off the wall at 5 minutes after noon on January 20th, 2029. And wow.
Can we talk for a second? I mean, you've been a senior advisor to the president of the United States in the Bush White House. You have ran successfully many presidential, gubernatorial campaigns, whether it be McCain's primary, becoming the guy that went up against Obama, lost to Hope and a Dream, which is a shame. He's a good man. A shame, and I say a shame because, we don't have the John McCains of the world anymore. If we did, Lindsey Graham might be on the straight and narrow, which we talked about earlier. But then, you talk about what you did for Schwarzenegger, literally turning that whole thing around. You understand diplomacy. You understand it. What's that? Oh, you can't hear me.
No, you're back. You're back.
Oh
You're
my
back.
God. I thought you were jacking me up a little bit. You're like, hey, I can't
No,
hear you.
you cut off for just a second.
Oh,
I was
okay.
like, oh,
But
okay.
but you understand diplomacy. You understand what happens in the White House in the Oval Office. Can we just quickly walk through what happened yesterday where Donald
Yeah.
J. Trump was like, hey, we struck Iran and it was a total secret. And by the way, I got a Japanese prime minister here. She knows something about secrets, right? I mean,
Right.
you kept Pearl Harbor a secret from me, right?
Right.
And the room dies, and the Japanese prime minister takes a big sigh. She leans back and she does one of these, fuck. This is not what I thought would happen. Is that one of the worst? Like, I mean, other than going, hey, remember Nagasaki? We kept that a secret from you.
Yeah.
Hiroshima too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, was that one of the most incredibly bonerific diplomatic moments, which is hard by his standard because he hasn't set one. I mean, there seems to be no floor, but
He
take me through that in the
he
annals
just
of
like has there's no governor. There's no restraint. There's no mechanism that puts a brake on his mouth. He is a pure ball of jingoistic classlessness and idiocy. Just
crazy.
idiocy, crazed idiocy. Saying it, and she, the prime minister, who just won a resounding mandate. She is in the camp of world leaders who think that the best way to deal with him is the whole shtick of, oh, Donald, only you can bring the peace of the world. Only you can do it. And so she, even after that, is doing all the Trump puffery, Keir Starmering is what I like to call it. He sets the gold standard for it, but the constant appeasement of this guy is just it's unbearable to watch.
Sickening.
It's unbearable to watch. And it's so dangerous. It's so dangerous. So dangerous.
Why? Why? A lot of people are asking the same question. Obviously, having you here as on your own podcast to shed light on as to why. Why do they do this? Why do they pander? Why do they grovel at his feet, knowing that the emperor doesn't just not have any clothes, dude? He's got no missiles. He's got no plan. He's got no fucking friends anymore. I mean, a couple days ago, he's reciting, a conversation he had with an imaginary president that doesn't exist, saying, Don, you're doing great in Iran. I didn't have the nuts to do that. You do. God bless you. Keep going. And, people just continue to believe him. But why do world leaders continue to fucking pander to this guy?
The best explanation, I guess, that I could offer is this is that people come in there with a plan, and that plan is we need to get some concessions from him on A or B or A, B, and C and D. We need these things. And in the attempt to get those things, the only thing they care about is those things. And they will say anything with the cameras on to set the conditions to get those things. And the reality is they don't understand the moment. Is that it's a live contact sport. It's like a football game. It's not something you can pre-plan. You have to be where the ball is going to be. You have to tackle someone. So you have to be prepared to be in that instant part of the show. And so you have Gretchen Whitmer, right? You have that moment with Gretchen Whitmer where Gretchen Whitmer's like, with the blue folder over her face. And And you have this moment with the Japanese prime minister, with Keir Starmer, right? Here's your giant gold invitation from the king. So everybody's plan involves at some level sating Trump, feeding him like he's a tiger through the cage. I got to go in there and feed the tiger. And it's astonishing. It's astonishing to watch. And there's only a couple of people who have handled him, have handled him well. And one of them, of course, was the I can't pronounce the name, but it's the Prime Minister of Ireland, President of Ireland, who
Oh,
just
the
sat and
TSAC.
laughed
The
at
TSAC yesterday.
the
Yeah. The
TSAC,
TSAC. That's like that.
and just laughing
Yeah.
at him, just
Yeah.
laughing at him. You just sit back and laugh at him, right?
And you remember he's like, yeah, let me correct you on a few things, and then all of a sudden someone asks a question. He's like, well, the president of Ireland said this, and he goes, I hate that. Trump's like, I hate that guy, and someone's like, it's a female.
Yeah. If you're the Japanese prime minister, is what this shows what's going on in the Middle East is the United States is just, and this is just more viscerally true. It didn't become true because of Iran. It has been true. We're just not prepared at any level to fight a war in the Western Pacific at all.
Yeah. And I did get to the other story that we were going to talk about today, which is how unprepared they are, but how much maybe allegedly, U.S. members, servicemen and women do not, specifically on the USS Gerald Ford, do not feel like going to war. They do not feel like extending their mission. And this is one of those stories, we mentioned it, that I am shocked no one's picked up on. It was originally first reported in a Grecian newspaper called the Katharimi, which is a very well-known, truth-telling, fact-based newspaper in Greece. That not only was the U.S. Gerald Ford coming to Crete for repairs, it was out of commission. And here's why. And this is a fascinating story nobody's following. And I wished everybody would. If you go to deanblundell.substack.com, you can check it out. But for the past several months, and Ken Harbaugh on the steering committee of the Save America movement, friend of yours, friend of mine, confirmed that for the past 6-7 months, the USS Gerald Ford has been on something called a poop cruise. Now, sounds funny, but it ain't, because you got 5,500 servicemen and women who've sworn an oath to protect the United States of America living on a boat where half the shitters don't work. And so they've literally been living in gray water. Parts of the USS Gerald Ford have been shut down and shut off because they are a biohazard, because the toilets continue to overflow. They cannot manage their sanitary/sewage systems on this thing, and they haven't been for months, no matter how much they complain. And to the point where you had men and women literally sleeping on tables and floors in rooms, sometimes 4 times the occupancy over the past 7 months. And then they get told, "Hey, listen, we're going to go to the Mediterranean." And we're going to start sending some munitions, and we're going to start supporting Operation Epic Fury. Well, this is where it got really interesting, because that poop cruise turned into, within hours of that deployment, turned into, there's this mysterious fire in the laundry bay. And that laundry bay in no way was in danger of catching fire. Now, the USS Gerald Ford, despite what Pete Hegseth tells you when he says we're doing this for our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, get on your knees, friends. Now, what they won't tell you is the USS Gerald Ford is inoperable. It is not prepared for combat in any way, shape, or form, because that laundry room fire, which is being investigated as sabotage/mutiny, as I tell you this, that laundry fire has rendered the USS Gerald Ford inoperable. They fought it for 30 hours. They got a handle on it. Now it is limping to Crete in Greece for repairs. And those repairs are so it can get to the United States of America to be retrofitted, because that much damage has been done. Now, why, you ask? Poop cruise, it's one thing. You don't understand morale. I think unless you've served in the military, and if you've talked to people in the military, and thankfully I've got a Canadian Navy guy that chats with American Navy guys that talk to me about this, and I kind of understand it in a rudimentary way. Is that these people have been living in sewage for months, and the United States military didn't give a shit. Meaning Pete Hegseth at the Department of War. And so the common thinking now is that several men and women in uniform decided to protest, or you can call it mutiny because by any other name, that's exactly what it fucking is, by lighting the USS Gerald Ford on fire. It is now inoperable and on its way to Greece because it is that fucked up. This story is the first of its kind that I know about any member of the United States or members of the United States military taking action against their own commander in chief, if indeed this does bear out to be factual. And it looks as if this is the thing that they are investigating right now on the USS Gerald Ford. As to whether or not they admit it, totally different.
Yeah, it's an amazing story, and the implications of it are huge. You haven't seen stuff like that in the U.S. military since the Vietnam War, since the 1970s, where you had a real crisis in the military, real crisis of credibility, including with the American people. Took a long, long time to rebuild that trust, and the military has been a shining example of an institution that is evidence that you can rebuild trust. And the military became the most trusted institution in the country, and the implications of a mutiny, and that's what it is, a mutiny at sea, where a fire was deliberately set to take the ship out of combat and put it into port, would be a just a wow story. And it takes place in this moment where there's no journalists deployed. There is
Won't
there
allow
is
it.
nobody covering America's war with the troops, which is unprecedented and completely unacceptable. And, it should be noted as you were talking about the Ford, this is the first of a new class of aircraft carriers. This is the largest, most sophisticated warship in the world. And the plumbing systems, the sewage systems don't work on the ship. And
Mhm.
it's a meta-fit for a broken military industrial complex, a Pentagon that can't pass a annual audit with a now $1.5 trillion budget. These ships are not configured to sustain a victory against drones by the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, or in the case of Chinese hypersonic missiles, the hypersonic missiles. And so it's an incredible story, and it'll have huge implications. We'll just have to keep an eye on it and see what happens. But we don't we're down one aircraft carrier at a moment in time where Trump is talking about, well, we're going to have this Marine Expeditionary Unit seize Corg Island, where there would likely be some significant casualties, to try to lever the Iranians into opening the Strait of Hormuz before we get to $200 barrels of oil, which will have an enormous implication on the global economy regarding Trump's war of stupidity, but, also choice.
Mm, mm. Yeah, you're right. I think a couple of things is that if this bears out, if the investigation, and keep in mind, I trust the IGRC more than I trust the military intelligence under the Trump regime right now.
Isn't
Sorry,
that
that's just
something?
yeah, dude. It's crazy. It's crazy that I believe everything that comes out of the Iranian regime now, and I don't believe anything that comes out of the Trump regime. So it doesn't matter what they tell us about the USS Gerald Ford. We're only going to find out about this if indeed it was sabotaged by the people who did it after the fact. And so we'll wait for that. But out of commission, let's add into that USS Abraham Lincoln, no longer in the Mediterranean. It is in the Indian Ocean, thousands of kilometers away from the action. And I wanted to get your opinion. I watched a great podcast, Substack Live you did with Tara Palmieri the other day. We're talking about the economy, of this war. We're talking about, what has caught the United States of America flat-footed. And I read an incredible report out of Ukraine, Kyiv Independent, this morning that talked about how drone operators from Kyiv showed up in the UAE and Qatar the other day and said, "So tell us how you've been shooting down these Shaheds." And one of the guys who was hosting from UAE goes, "Well, we fired like 8 of these Patriot missiles, $4 million a missile. At this one, didn't get it, and so it hit us." And they go, "Excuse me, you shot 8 $4 million missiles at a $20,000 drone?" They're like, yeah, and it didn't work. Like, like on the precipice of this life-changing information that we now have, that the United States isn't just woefully unprepared. They have no idea what they're doing. Neither do anybody that they've sold weapons and arms to over the past, 20, 30, 40 years saying, "Hey, yeah, we got you. We'll protect you." This has been one of the greatest unmaskings. And I know you're a proud American, and I don't mean any disrespect by this or to the men and women in uniform. I really don't. This has been one of the great unmaskings, almost on par in a 22-day period with what we learned about the Russian war machine, a 3 dressed as a 9 or a 4 telling you they're a 10. This is almost the same thing with the United States of America. And Ken Harbaugh said something to me yesterday when we were chatting, because we had him and Congressman Riggleman on. We were talking about drone warfare. He said, "This is the most embarrassing war I can remember in U.S. history. I am embarrassed. I am embarrassed because we have been shown out and shown up." How much of that is part of the conversation in the United States where it's like, oh my God, not only are we woefully equipped, we haven't been paying attention. Not only that, America isn't the warmongering country that can take anybody and anything anytime they want, because they're now begging for help from NATO allies who are refusing to come to their aid, even though they say the war is won, and they're still getting pounded. U.S. installations still getting pounded. Friends of theirs, Kuwait, UAE, gas fields in South Paz, the biggest LNG gas field in the world, is literally on fire. It's going to take 5 years to ramp up to the production. They've already lost 17%. This is an unmitigated economic disaster all the way around, Steve.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And it's going to get worse. The elections have consequences, and American elections have consequences for the entire world. And I think, and one of the things I've written about and talked about, it was that Trump, who claimed he would be a peace president because he was a fascist, would always take us to war. And here we are. Donald Trump has fallen in love with war. And you can chart day by day through 1,000 unhinged performances how it is we got here. I'm seeing a lot of the Israel stuff on the how we got here that really sells the Saudis short regarding their manipulations of Trump. Billions of dollars put into Jared Kushner's pocket, but the United States has acted alone, and it acted foolishly, and it acted to try to change a regime through air power, which is not something possible to achieve. So he set out to accomplish something, and he can't achieve it. And now he's in a position where his choice is binary. It's forward or backwards. Double down or get out. Walk away from the table or commit ground forces. And so he's in the position now where he looks at the island about 20 miles off the coast, Karg Island, that has the most important Iranian energy infrastructure on it. And he has a Marine Expeditionary Unit. And he says, well, if I seize this island and I hold really the linchpin of the Iranian economy, their energy economy, I can compel them to open the Strait of Hormuz that would not be closed but for the military attack and the dismissal by Trump of what it was that he was told the Iranians would do. And what the Iranians would do is try to make the war bigger, to make sure that the implications of the war are felt outside the boundaries of Tehran, outside the borders of the country. And, I could tell you, like last night, walking around in Palm Springs in California, people were out, the restaurants were full, and it did not appear, if that was a slice of Americana, that the American people are really affected by or caught up in the war. But trust me when I say this one is coming home. The gas prices are going up. Inflation is going to go up. There is going to be attacks on the American homeland, which is incompetently defended by all of these Trump goons. And the implications of this are very, very serious. We have net zero job creation in the United States. The economy is on the edge, and none of this is going to make anything better. You have an appropriation for $200 billion, for Trump's excursion that they just asked for. And in the last 2 months, the country's added $2 trillion to its national debt. And
39, yeah.
right, it's at $39 trillion. And I don't, wherever you sit on these issues, and I'm not an economist, I'm not Paul Krugman, I don't have a Nobel Prize, and I don't particularly pretend to understand, right, the complexities of the global economy. But I will say this is that with $39 trillion of debt, we're more broke than any country has ever been, and our creditors hold a lot of leverage over our children's future. And when you understand what a trillion is, right? We're adding $2 trillion in debt in months. Trillion, a million seconds. A million seconds. I'm like, hey, Dino, I'll see you in a million seconds. That means I'm going to see you in 12 days. If I got, some of the guys we talk about off camera, if I'm like, man, I hope I don't see that guy for a billion seconds. A billion seconds, that's 33 years. If I say I don't want to see you for a trillion seconds, that's 33,000 years. That's the difference between a million and a billion and a trillion. It's an astonishing number.
And you have a way of helping people understand the kind of trouble that they're in, but you've been in so much trouble for so long, and it's been explained away in the United States for such a long time that what a lot of people don't understand is who holds that debt, and who holds that debt is mostly the young lady who showed up to the Oval Office yesterday to be reminded of Pearl Harbor. That was the Japanese prime minister. Japan holds trillions in U.S. debt with T-bills. One of the other biggest holder in treasury bills and U.S. debt is China. Well, who else is he threatening on a daily basis like the paper tiger he is? And then Canada's number 3 on that list. Canada, the Great White North. Governor Mark Carney can hit that fucking button at any point in time. Everybody's on board. That was the first time you and I talked, if you remember, it was about a year ago, where we talked about this bond play that Mark Carney had organized. Well, that bond play is still ongoing. That is something that Japan is reaching into their bonds. China's reaching into their bonds. They're now selling them as U.S. Treasury dollars, taking their yields and fucking off. And this is the one thing that doesn't seem to scare the United States, doesn't seem to scare the Trump regime. And part of it for me, Steve, and listen, like you're not an economist, I'm not a crypto / Bitcoin guy. Like I'm just not. But part of it seems to be intentional. Part of it seems to be we don't give a shit if oil's $200 a barrel because we'll figure out a way to destroy the U.S. economy, replace the Fed and the Reserve with Bitcoin and crypto and all the things that we hold to be important. And Donald Trump actually is sitting on $10 billion in crypto if it's realized tomorrow from all of his profit taking, deal making, and bribe taking from other countries in the Middle East, whether it be hotels that you can sell in crypto, whether it be fucking airplanes that he gets gifted by the Qatari royal family. So part of it, and I'd love your opinion on this because, for a guy who talks about it's the economy, stupid, the economy, the guy that is screaming at Jerome Powell, calling him too late Powell, saying you got to reduce interest rates, seems to have no problem with, and I'm seeing it in the chat, seems to have no problem with gas at $5 a gallon, diesel $6-7 a gallon. South Carolina yesterday, it was $8 a gallon. And this is at Brent crude being, 110, 115 a barrel today. Like
Yeah.
we're looking at $200 a barrel, Steve.
He lives in a bubble where there's no incentive for any person to tell him, hey, Mr. President, this is a fucking disaster. No one will tell him that. And so what he's being told is that this is great. We're winning. Great victory. He's surrounded by enemies. If only the press would just cover it fairly. Right? So you see the Brandon Carr sideshow. You see all of his lashing out at various, but again, it's feeding the tiger. Right, when you picture Marco Rubio and Vance and all these guys, they're all standing outside with a piece of meat in their hand, and it's like, I'm not feeding them, you feed them. You go in there and tell them. So no one, you do it, right? So nobody tells them anything. No one will say anything to him. No one will confront him on any of this, and he exists moment to moment in a perpetual present, which I think is one of the great failures of the media in this era, the American media, that has severed the concept of consequences.
Mm-hmm.
That what happened a year ago, what happened a month ago, is part of why we are where we are today. And so Trump exists in this constant present as if we're in a play as opposed to reality.
Mm.
And in reality, here we are, and Trump has cornered himself that he can't get out of the situation just through bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
He's either got to double in more or he's got to walk back. And I think this is very telling. General Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and this is why all this shit matters. There is no Department of War. And all of these men and names, these institutions, their legal authorities that are from a lawful basis. So we have a Secretary of Defense, not a Secretary of War. We have a chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff who's the principal military advisor to the president and is not in Pete Hegseth's chain of command. The general has every ability to go to the president and say, Mr. President, I need a word. I don't want to step out, but I'm not going to wear my uniform and debase it by standing on a stage with Pete Hegseth when he talks about troops like this, when he talks about war like this, when he uses rhetoric like this. I'm not going to do it. I'm happy to submit my resignation.
Mm.
but he won't do it because he'd rather debase his uniform than displease Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And that tells you something about the character of the military advice that he's getting. And you know for certain when you watch a Tulsi Gabbard who gets cornered on the question by John Ossoff, yes or no, when he says to her, precisely it's your job to make the determination. It's not Trump's job. Trump doesn't divine it. But they exist in a authoritarian culture now,
Mm-hmm.
distinct from an authoritarian country. Country's not authoritarian, and he doesn't control the country, right? He controls the White House. He controls his realm, and in that realm, it's authoritarian. It's no different than what went on around Saddam Hussein, what went on around all of these guys. Oh, yes, dear leader.
Mm.
And they are fully bought into it. And
Mm.
it's disgusting. It's just look at Joni Ernst.
You see her
Does a
today?
clip today. Like and
Yeah.
she's Donald wants peace and love for all the children. He wants the very best. And you're watching the guy from Fox News doing the interview to look. And Joni Ernst got caught banging the I think the Air Force admiral and the Air Force general and the Navy admiral, who were the top lobbyists for the Air Force and the Navy.
Yeah, she liked to throw it around. Yeah, Jody.
Oh, and she ran as a hog farmer, right? With a
Yeah.
castration ad, right? That she's going to go up there to cut spending. I mean, Jesus Christ, you can't make it up, right? I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, the sycophantic stuff, too, doesn't even really just exist around him and his cabinet and all the proxies that he sends out, like Jody Ernst today, going, hey, if we have boots on the ground, I trust the president.
I trust them.
I trust him, I tell you all. But it exists in our media landscape as well. And on Sundays, I do this feature called Dead Air. And if you're from radio, you understand what that means. It's like when you turn on the radio and you hear nothing, right? It's the same thing. It's what we see every day on these Sundays news programs. It's what we see every day in mainstream media with this fecklessness, this inability to hold truth to power, which is that's an easy one. It's the inability to even follow up on a question, even follow up on a lie, even follow up on a Trump sycophant that repeats information and statistics that no longer exist. Like to give Kevin Hassett any airtime with that shit-eating grin on his face all the time. Things are great. He's like fucking Baghdad Bob.
Yeah.
Things are great.
Yeah.
I think he's great. But today's another announcement, and I want to focus on your favorite person, Bari Weiss, over at CBS.
Yeah.
I know you love her.
Yeah, she's good.
She's great. She's great for David Ellison. Fully captured network, purchased by David Ellison, for Donald Trump. A couple days ago, Pete Hegseth is screaming at people in a war briefing, going, "I can't wait till David Ellison buys CNN too. It's gonna be fucking great. I won't have to deal with you assholes anymore." Like that's like the capture of the media network is something. Today, Bari Weiss announced that she was going to absolutely unload. I mean, get rid of CBS News Radio. Done. 700 people. Finished. You're done today. We're not doing news radio anymore. We're not reporting the news anymore. We can't control 700 people. So we're just going to get rid of every single one of you. And we're going to slowly funnel everybody into this pipeline of bullshit like we're doing with Tony DePoo or whatever the guy's name is, like we're doing with the entire CBS News network. And if you understand anything about media, fortunate I've been in this game long enough to understand that contraction is intentional, that getting rid of people is intentional. You're a CEO whisperer. You have been for a long time. You've ran multiple campaigns, successful Bush. You understand that when you need to tighten the messaging, you get rid of as many people as humanly possible. And that's exactly what Bari Weiss at CBS is doing. And I want your thoughts because CBS News Radio is a legendary platform, a legendary brand, and now 700 people. All their affiliates are out of work as of today.
Yeah. And that has an implication for a lot of rural America, which is a cohort, a part of the country that Bari Weiss doesn't seem to be very in touch with, or to care very much about when you read all of the things that she's said over the years. And um, this consolidation that you're witnessing and the political corruption to which it is attached and to which it is a part of, this entire Paramount deal, from the sale uh, by Shari Redstone, her settling of the Trump suit, has been one giant corrupt act. And you're going to have Democratic majorities in the Congress, and then you're going to have a presidential campaign. And I'm not sure what the meaning of the labels is anymore, but one of the things that I expect and that I hope to see are serious plans to break up the concentrations of power that, for example, the Ellisons represent. The tremendous amount of ownership. When you have a family that owns the Sinclair Broadcasting Network that tried to take Jimmy Kimmel off the air. All of this stuff is a threat to the liberty of the American people. And it's uncompetitive. And it's true across the finance sector. It's true across big tech. It's true across the agriculture industry. And so we have to have a plan to attack these concentrations of power. And this is what the Democratic Party should stand for, in my view. It should be a reform party. And when you look at what's happening to Kristi Noem and Corey Lewandowski, now that they're outside of the gates and outside of the walls and the natural gravity takes over, there's going to be a very hard road for a lot of these MAGA people in the decades to come.
I feel like you're going to make sure of that, Steve.
It's the most important political question that's going to be on the table. We need a break from the past in the immediate past. We need to get out of this abyss and going into a new direction. And what a small number of people have done in high government office, every detail of it will need to be known. And when every detail of it is known, what it is that Kristi Noem did, what it is that Pam Bondi did, what it is that went on in these places is going to blow people's minds. And there has to be accountability for it.
Yeah, I go back to that reference. We talked about Moffin Maiden a couple weeks ago. That the mob rules, and it rules both ways sometimes, right? And I go back to conversations he's had with my grandfather where he's like, we had no idea until we rolled into Dachau what was really going on. Like, you only find out when you actually cede that territory, when you get it back and you're able to do an accounting of what's really gone on at Alligator Alcatraz, or in McAllen, Texas, or on some of these deportation planes, or in these boardrooms and these side deals, or on Airfuck One, behind, the relationship with Melania Trump and Jeff Bezos, behind the relationship of, Elon Musk and Doge, and what that did to the United States, to the economy, to institutions. We'll find out after, but it's getting there that is so difficult for so many people, Steve, which is so hard. But, and I have this conversation with people from time to time who get down and they're like, I can't even watch the news. I can't even listen to that man's voice. You're watching the undoing and the unraveling of him in real time as well. According to all the conversations that we've had, listen, I'm of the firm opinion that, at 12 midnight on a day where the United States is taken back by the beautiful people of America, those who love democracy and stand on those principles, that Donald Trump's name is going to come off the Kennedy Center building. It's going to come off the board of peace will stop existing. It's going to come off the Institute of Peace, and you pointed out earlier to start. And I loved listening to you say it. Is they're going to get rid of that decrepit golden layer that he calls an Oval fucking office too. And so for all of you that sit and watch this and go, ah, one eye open, one eye closed, I can't handle this anymore. All of the failures of Donald Trump are coming to fruition in real time, whether it be SCOTUS and the tariffs, whether it be the absolute fucking disaster in Iran, and knowing that he is absolutely out of answers, out of goodwill, has no fucking friends. I mean, no one's coming to help him. Whether it is the death of the United States economy, and yes, I understand what's at play here, and yes, I know gas is expensive, but there are so many aspects to this failing disaster of a presidency. I believe his approval ratings around 33% overall. I mean, you pointed this out. What has he got? 7 to go, 6 to go before
He's
he's
got the
finished.
26 is as low as he can go, what I had said is that by the time we get to the end of March, he'll be at about 30%, and he's going to be at about 30% at the end of March, and those numbers are horrific. And he doesn't have the power to cancel elections. He doesn't have the votes to pass the SAVE Act. And the American people are going to render a brutal, brutal judgment on him for these midterm elections.
Mhm. Totally agree. And I think that's the good news. And I think everybody should really focus on that. I think, the kakistocracy is not sustainable. It just isn't. Lies are not sustainable. What he's done to the United States of America, not sustainable. And then, you tell the freest country in the world that, hey, you might cancel their elections, or hey, we're going to decide who votes and who doesn't. Hey, we're going to change the rules with the SAVE Act, which makes it impossible for a woman who changed her name from her birth certificate to her driver's license when she gets married to actually go and vote. That's a real fucking thing, friends. Like it's the screw turning within the NSPM sevens and all of the different executive orders. And you're right, the SAVE Act isn't going to pass no matter how much he screams. These are all good news stories. The end is nigh. It's just a matter of will the American public, will the American people go full carny or not? And I'm hoping that they do.
And look, with Bari Weiss and all of that, she's Bari Weiss isn't 82 years old. She's not saddled up for her last rodeo. She's got a lot of miles ahead. And so what's Bari Weiss's credibility in a room 4 years from now?
Zero.
Right?
Zero.
I mean, it's zero credibility.
Yeah.
It's zero credibility. And I got to tell you that I'm so impressed by John Ossoff, the senator from Georgia, and I think he's a top tier presidential candidate when he wins this election. But you look at his questioning of Tulsi Gabbard and these people, and I love to see it because it's easy to become deceived by the idea that the world is permanently upside down and that there will be no accountability and the insanity is won the day. And what John Ossoff reminds you of is that no, is that reality will have the final word on all of this stuff here. And in his method of asking a question, he's really good. He's really good. He's a serious fucking dude in a time where we need serious dudes and serious dudettes to 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 lay the wood on these people.
Yeah, I think you lost Fetterman a few months ago in that serious conversation too.
No, he's a clown. There is
Is he the
nothing.
greatest disappointment in your political career?
I've never been able to stand him, right?
Yeah.
And what drives me crazy about him is his disrespect for the office. Like I am happy, right, as a general proposition that people don't sit around in suits anymore at home, right, to watch television, and you don't have to get dressed up to go on an airplane,
You
right?
don't go to the
I'm
beach in a
into
suit.
I'm
Yeah.
into casual Fridays, but you're a United States senator. Wear a suit. He's a buffoon. He's an oaf. Um, he's an awful senator,
Mm,
and he's not fit for the job in a serious time, and I just don't have patience for it.
yeah.
I don't think politicians should have fans like Britney Spears and Taylor Swift, right? They shouldn't
Never
have
understood
fans.
it.
They should have some supporters. There's a transaction, right? I'm doing this for you.
Yeah.
Right, it's like, "Great, that's the right, do this, do the job,
Mhm.
do the job."
Yeah.
And now we're gonna be in a prolonged period where what goes on in our politics really matters. It
Mm,
really matters,
mhm.
and, it's gonna matter for a long time.
Yeah. Well, dude, I listen, always appreciate it. I wanted to get some thoughts on Tulsi Gabbard. I don't know how much time you have. I know we're almost an hour.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe we'll save Tulsi for another time, unless you want to talk
yeah,
about because you know what? Real quick, I heard today rumors that she's getting ready to hand in her resignation because her and Joe Kent were a little more than coworkers. And yesterday, she literally made a point of trying to separate herself from the Trump regime over and over and
yeah.
over and over again. And I found that to be fascinating in as much as she perjured herself the day before. It appears that Tulsi Gabbard is starting to look at, the pieces on on the Nuremberg chessboard and go, all right, I might go to jail. I'm gonna have to figure this out like Joe Kent did. Because that was stunning too.
It it's such a freak show. She's a member of a cult.
Yeah.
Right,
Hawaiian cult.
a Hawaiian Hindu
Oh.
surfer cult, and she's the director of national intelligence, and it is a freak show. And the only time I see any of these people on a I we have to go through a period where senators and members of Congress legislate again, where they pass laws. And one of the laws that I think they have to pass is that you have to raise the threshold for some of these jobs. That you have to get 65 votes for confirmation, 66 votes, well, whatever it is, that there's really no way for a whack job to get back into these jobs. And she is just a whack job that when you see her testifying is sitting there with 3, 4-star generals and admirals. You just sit there and you're like, "Oh, I can fucking what can you say?" And
Well,
you
you
were
could say that Mark Wayne Mullen got approved,
right,
yes?
Mark Wayne Mullen.
I'm
It's
sorry, dude.
because you can't, like, I mean, it's not like when I was a kid where even if you disagreed with the other, you were like, "Hey, how do you become a senator? How do you?" And you gotta accomplish some stuff, and just it seems like the dumber you are, the more booster rocket fluid fuel you have in your
Career. Yeah.
in your career. It's amazing to watch.
Oh
What
man,
what
it's funny. I grew up with this, and I think a good place to kind of tie this off. But I grew up like our neighbor was a lawyer, right? High powered lawyer, became the MP for the area. Dude had the fucking best shoes. He was so well
nice
put
news.
together, really smart guy. His name was Doug Friend. He became like this titan in conservative political circles as I was a kid, and he was our neighbor. I was like, man, that guy is so smart, right? That guy is for that gig. I mean, we lived in a small town in Saskatchewan, but you could tell he was not small town Saskatchewan. Like, he was a real, fucking impressive, well-educated, battle-scarred dude that understood policy, that understood direction, that understood what he was supposed to be doing. When I think about the United States government today, a woman who's legitimately a Hawaiian cult member is the DNI. You've got a fucked up Fox News drunk host being your Secretary of Defense, literally using poems and telling everybody to get on their knees to Jesus Christ before he signs off in a war briefing. Legitimately,
total religious nutter,
absolutely insane. And then, John Ratcliffe might be the most impressive of them all, and he is the most woefully unqualified guy to lead the CIA as well. And then you've got Kash Patel, who used to write kids' books about him being a cartoony wizard to the woke that like to go around and drop wizard bombs on people to save people from woke humanity. He's the director of the FBI. Then you've got a money laundering, rapist president of the United States who's been convicted of 34 felonies. I mean, we what's that?
And he's looking at their feet, and he's like, "You're a size 11. You're a size 9. You're a size 7. I got a shoe for you." It's just total madness.
Really underscores the fact that you said this is a fucking disaster, so I appreciate it.
It is a catastrophe for the ages, and it's going to get worse. And we're 200 days away. Congress will come back to life. We'll have a Democratic majority, and we'll have a real test of the democracy, of the checks and balances, and put all of it into a deep freeze, hopefully.
We're with you. This flag, we're with you. You know that. Canada's with you. Canada's with Better America. Go do it, everybody. 200 days. That's all we got. Thanks, buddy. Great to see you. Talk to you soon. Bye.